Hey guys, tonight we travel back, way back, to the land of pharaohs, pyramids, and some rather peculiar sleeping arrangements. We're heading to ancient Egypt, specifically to explore why on earth these incredibly sophisticated people who built monumental structures and had such a rich understanding of the afterlife chose to rest their heads on pillows made of stone. Imagine the desert night, cool and starlit, the gentle lapping of the Nile nearby, and you, an ancient Egyptian, preparing to lay your weary head not on a soft, fluffy cloud of down, but on a solid, unyielding curve of rock or wood. And let's be honest, faced with a stone headrest after a long day of, say, meticulously carving hieroglyphs or hauling blocks for a pyramid, just an average Tuesday, right? You probably wouldn't survive the night without waking up feeling like you'd gone 10 rounds with a particularly grumpy hippo and then been used as a doorstop. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps more than you know. And, as always, I'd love to see where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world, so drop a comment below. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The last sliver of the sun, a molten gold disk, has long since dipped below the western horizon, beyond the vast, rustling fields of barley and flax that stretch out from the fertile banks of the Nile. The air, which earlier pulsed with the intense, dry heat of an Egyptian afternoon, now carries a distinct coolness, a refreshing balm against your skin, still warm from the day's labors. You stand for a moment at the low doorway of your home, a modest structure of sun-dried mud bricks, much like those of your neighbors in this small village, nestled not too far from the life-giving river. The sky above is a breathtaking expanse of deepest indigo, so clear that the stars seem almost close enough to touch, scattered like brilliant diamond dust across a velvet cloth. Mayat, the goddess of order and truth, seems to have arranged them with particular care tonight. You can pick out the familiar constellations, the celestial bark of Ra making its nightly journey through the Duat, the underworld, to be reborn at dawn. Or at least, that's what the priests in the local temple say, and who are you to argue with millennia of accumulated wisdom? They probably have very convincing PowerPoint presentations. The sounds of the evening are a gentle symphony. From the river, you can hear the occasional soft splash as a fish jumps, or the distant, mournful cry of a night heron. Closer by, the chirping of crickets forms a steady, rhythmic chorus, punctuated by the occasional croak of a frog from an irrigation ditch. The wind, a soft sigh from the north, rustles through the papyrus reeds lining the water channels, a sound like dry whispers. Within your home, the embers of the cooking fire in the small, open-air courtyard, if you're lucky enough to have one, or perhaps just a designated hearth area, glow a dull, reassuring red, casting faint, dancing shadows. The scent of lentils and baked bread from your evening meal still lingers, mingled with the earthy smell of the mud brick walls, the slightly dusty aroma of reed mats, and perhaps a hint of something sweet and smoky if a little incense was burned to ward off troublesome spirits, or just to make the place smell a bit less like, well, ancient daily life. It's not exactly Chanel No. 5, but it's home. Your family, perhaps a spouse and a couple of children, are already settling down. Their quiet movements, the soft murmur of their voices as they prepare for sleep, are familiar and comforting sounds. The children, their energy finally expended after a day of chores and play, might be curled up on a shared mat in one corner, their breathing already deep and even. Your spouse might be carefully storing away the clay pots and wooden bowls used for the meal, or perhaps mending a torn linen tunic by the faint light of a single pottery lamp, its flaxen wick sputtering softly in a pool of castor oil or sesame oil. It's not exactly a 100-watt bulb, so close work is probably a recipe for a headache, but it's better than total darkness. You exchange a few quiet words, the usual end-of-day pleasantries. Did you remember to bring in the goat? Yes, dear. Are the children asleep? Finally, the timeless conversations of domesticity, echoing down through the ages. You wonder if Pharaoh has these same conversations in his vast palace. Probably, though his goat is likely a lot more pampered and has its own gilded shed. You stretch, your muscles still aching from the day's work. Whether you spent the day guiding a wooden plow pulled by oxen through the rich, dark Kemet, the black land left by the Nile's inundation, or shaping clay on a potter's wheel, or perhaps chiseling inscriptions for a local dignitary. If you're a scribe, your body knows it's been a long day. The Egyptian sun is a demanding taskmaster. You take a final look out at the starry sky, a silent acknowledgement of the gods who watch over this land, before turning back into the relative dimness of your home. The main room of your dwelling is simple. The floor is packed earth, perhaps covered in places with woven reed mats that feel surprisingly soft beneath your bare feet. The walls are whitewashed mud brick, cool to the touch. Furnishings are sparse but functional. A few low wooden stools, some pottery jars for storing water, grain, and beer, the lifeblood of Egypt, along with the Nile, of course, and perhaps a small wooden chest for valuables or finer linens. There are no grand tapestries or gilded statues here. This is the home of an ordinary Egyptian, comfortable enough, but without an excess of luxury. Your concerns are more about a good harvest, a healthy family, and keeping the various gods and goddesses happy enough not to send a plague of locusts or a particularly nasty bout of river blindness your way. Standard life goals, really. It's time for sleep. You move towards your sleeping area, perhaps a slightly raised platform of mud brick at one end of the room, or simply a designated space where your sleeping mat is laid out. The Egyptian bed, for those who could afford a little more than a mat, was typically a low wooden frame, often with legs shaped like bull's hooves or lion's paws. A nice touch, though you hope they don't come alive in the night. The sleeping surface would be made of woven reeds, rushes, or linen cords stretched across the frame, providing a firm but slightly yielding base. It's not exactly a memory foam mattress, but it beats sleeping directly on the cold, hard earth, especially if there are scorpions or other nocturnal creepy crawlies about. And let's be honest, in a climate like Egypt's, a bit of airflow underneath you is probably a godsend. No one likes waking up stuck to their mattress like a piece of poorly applied papyrus. You unroll your sleeping mat, its dry reeds rustling softly. You're wearing a simple linen kilt or a loose tunic, the standard attire for sleep and for much of daily life. Linen, made from flax, was the fabric of choice in ancient Egypt, light, breathable, and relatively easy to clean, though getting it that pristine white you see on tomb paintings probably involved a lot of sunshine, elbow grease, and perhaps some rather pungent natron solutions. You imagine the pharaoh's linens are probably a thread count that would make a modern luxury hotel weep with envy. Yours? Well, yours is functional. It keeps the bits covered and doesn't chafe too much. Good enough. And now, you reach for your pillow. But this is where your modern sensibilities, dear listener, might experience a significant jolt. You are not reaching for a soft, yielding cushion filled with feathers, or down, or even a sensible wad of kapok. No. You are reaching for your wares, your headrest. And it is, quite likely, made of stone. Or perhaps wood, if stone is a bit beyond your budget or local availability. But for tonight, let's imagine you've recently acquired a rather fetching limestone model. It's smooth, cool to the touch, and utterly, unequivocally, hard. It's an elegant, if somewhat austere, object. It consists of a gently curved, crescent-shaped upper piece, designed to cradle the back of your head or your neck, supported by a solid, often cylindrical or rectangular central pillar, which in turn rests on a flat base. Some headrests are beautifully carved, adorned with hieroglyphs offering prayers for protection, or with images of benevolent deities like Bes, the dwarf god who wards off evil spirits and nightmares, or Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess of childbirth and protection. Wealthier individuals might have headrests made of alabaster, faience, that lovely Egyptian glazed ceramic, ivory, or fine woods like cedar or ebony, sometimes inlaid with precious materials. Yours, however, is a more common variety, perhaps a pale, creamy limestone, smoothed by a craftsman's hand, its surface cool and unadorned, save for maybe a simple incised line or two by way of decoration. Or perhaps it's made of sycamore fig wood, a common local timber. It's functional, it's durable, and it is, by modern standards, an instrument of nocturnal torture. You look at it, and it looks back at you, impassively. There's no give, no fluff, no comforting squish. It just is. Stone. For your head. You position it on your sleeping mat. This is where the technique comes in. You don't just plonk your head down on it any old how. That would be a fast track to a crick in the neck that would make a grumpy sphinx look cheerful. You lie on your side, as is the common sleeping position in many cultures, and carefully nestle the side of your head, or perhaps the junction of your neck and skull, onto the cool, curved surface of the wares. The idea is to elevate your head, keeping it raised off the sleeping surface. Your shoulder rests on the mat, your body aligned. It takes a bit of getting used to. The first few times you tried it, you probably woke up with your ear feeling like it had been tenderized by a particularly enthusiastic butcher, and a distinct impression of the limestone's grain pattern imprinted on your cheek. Is this supposed to be comfortable? You might have muttered to the darkness. Are we sure this isn't some kind of elaborate practical joke by the gods? But then you notice a few things. The stone, though hard, is cool. In the lingering heat of an Egyptian night, even after the sun has set, that coolness against your head is surprisingly pleasant. It helps to dissipate the heat that can build up, especially if your hair is thick or if you've been wearing a headdress all day, though you, as an ordinary Egyptian, might not have such elaborate coiffures as the nobility depicted in tomb paintings. That coolness is a small, welcome relief. It's like finding the cool side of the pillow, except the entire pillow is the cool side, and it's always cool. A definite plus in a subtropical climate. You also realize, perhaps with a dawning sense of practicality, that having your head elevated keeps it away from any unwelcome nocturnal visitors. We're talking about the less glamorous denizens of an ancient Egyptian household: scorpions, centipedes, various beetles, and other creepy crawlies that might fancy sharing your sleeping mat or exploring your ear canal for a midnight snack. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen we talked about in another episode? Well, ancient Egyptians had a very pragmatic approach to their environment, and that included pest control, even in their sleep. Raising your head on a solid, smooth pillar makes it a much less appealing climb for an adventurous insect. It's like putting your head on a tiny personal fortress, safe from the six-legged barbarian hordes. Suddenly, the stone doesn't seem quite so unfriendly. It's your little guardian against the things that go scuttle in the night. A mainstream historical fact is that headrests, known as wares in ancient Egyptian, have been found in Egyptian tombs dating back to the early dynastic period, circa 3100 to 2686 BCE, and were used throughout ancient Egyptian history, across various social classes, though the materials and elaboration varied. Their presence in tombs indicates their importance not just for the living, but also for the deceased in the afterlife, suggesting they held more than just a practical function. They were considered essential equipment for a good and safe eternal rest. You shift slightly, trying to find the sweet spot on the limestone curve. It's still not what you'd call plush. Your ear might be complaining a little, but you've seen your parents sleep this way, your grandparents too. Everyone does. It's just how one sleeps, like eating with your fingers or brewing beer from bread. It's part of the fabric of life. You start to wonder if people in far-off lands, lands of cold and snow that the traders sometimes whisper about, sleep with their heads on. What? Piles of soft animal furs? Bags of leaves? The thought seems almost decadent, and probably terribly unhygienic. All those things would get hot and stuffy, and probably attract even more bugs. No. Your cool, clean, elevated stonewares is clearly the superior sleeping technology. Or so you tell yourself as you try to ignore the faint throbbing in your earlobe. The shadows in the room dance and sway as the oil lamp flickers its last, before finally guttering out, plunging the room into a deeper darkness, relieved only by the faint starlight filtering through the doorway or a small, high window. The sounds of the night seem to amplify in the stillness. The gentle breathing of your family, the distant bark of a desert dog or a jackal, the incessant chorus of the crickets. You can smell the coolness of the Nile air carrying the faintest trace of damp earth and vegetation. You close your eyes. The stone is unyielding beneath your head, but it is also steadfast, a solid presence in the darkness. You think of the stories the old women in the village tell, whispers about the magic inherent in everyday objects, about the protective power of certain shapes and materials. Could this simple piece of limestone be more than just a head prop? Could it be a guardian, a sentinel watching over your sleep? The thought is a comforting one. In a world filled with unseen forces, with spirits both benevolent and malevolent, any extra protection is welcome, especially when you're unconscious and vulnerable. You wouldn't want a rogue bow, a sort of malevolent spirit, or a hemut, a ghost, messing with your dreams, or worse, your ka, your life force. Maybe this hard little pillow is actually a spiritual bouncer, keeping the riffraff of the underworld out of your REM cycle. The idea that the headrest might have a deeper symbolic meaning starts to take root in your mind. After all, this is Egypt. Everything has a deeper symbolic meaning. The shape of a farmer's plow, the color of a priest's robe, the way a woman plaits her hair, all are imbued with layers of significance, connecting the mundane to the divine, the present to the ancient past. Why should a simple headrest be any different? Perhaps its crescent shape echoes the moon, a celestial body closely associated with cycles, with sleep, and with certain deities like Khonsu or Thoth, who sometimes wears a lunar disk. Or perhaps its solidity, its permanence, is meant to instill a sense of stability and security in the sleeper, a symbolic anchor in the shifting tides of the dream world. Historians still argue whether the primary motivation for headrest use was purely practical comfort and hygiene in a hot climate, or if symbolic and religious reasons were always paramount from their earliest adoption. It's likely a bit of both, a perfect marriage of form, function, and faith, as is so often the case in ancient Egyptian culture. Why choose between a cool head, no bugs, and divine protection when your pillow can offer all three? It's the ultimate multitasker of the ancient bedroom. You try to relax, to let your body sink into the reed mat, to allow your head to settle more comfortably on the stone curve. Your breathing deepens. The initial discomfort is fading, replaced by a kind of stoic acceptance, and perhaps even a grudging appreciation for its cool, solid presence. This is how your ancestors slept, for countless generations. This is how the gods intend for you to sleep, under their starry gaze, in this ancient land of Kemet. The stone is a link to them, a small piece of the enduring earth, cradling your head as you prepare to journey into the duat of dreams. A quirky tidbit about ancient Egyptian sleep. While stone headrests are well known, some depictions and archaeological finds suggest that softer head supports, perhaps made of folded linen or small stuffed cushions, were also used, particularly by women, or for reclining during the day. However, the stone or wooden headrest seems to have been the standard for nocturnal sleep for a significant portion of the population, especially those who could afford one beyond a simple block of wood. It's possible that the hardness was a deliberate choice, perhaps believed to promote a certain kind of alertness even in sleep, or to facilitate a particular kind of dream experience. Or maybe they just had really tough ears. As you lie there, on the cusp of sleep, your head resting on this ancient, unyielding pillow, you are not just an individual drifting off. You are part of a vast, unbroken chain of sleepers, stretching back into the mists of time, all cradled on similar supports, all watched over by the same eternal stars, all dreaming their dreams under the watchful eyes of the Egyptian pantheon. The stone beneath your head feels less like an instrument of discomfort and more like a connection, a grounding point, a tiny, personal monument to the endurance of tradition and the mysteries of the night. The journey into sleep on your stone pillow is about to begin. Sweet dreams, or at least bug-free and relatively cool ones. The initial surprise, perhaps even mild indignation, at resting your head on a solid piece of limestone or wood has begun to subside. You're an ancient Egyptian, after all, and practicality, often interwoven with a deep spiritual understanding, underpins much of your daily life. As you lie there on your reed mat, the cool, unyielding curve of the wares cradling your head, you start to appreciate more fully the rather ingenious reasons why your ancestors, and indeed your entire community, embraced this seemingly uncomfortable sleeping aid. It's not just about tradition for tradition's sake. There's a certain elegant logic to it, a desert dweller's wisdom that might not be immediately apparent to someone accustomed to a mountain of goose down. The most obvious benefit, as you've already noted, is the coolness. Egypt, for much of the year, is a land of relentless heat. Even after sunset, the mud brick walls of your home, the very earth beneath you, radiate the stored warmth of the day. Your body, too, generates heat. A soft, enveloping pillow, like those imagined in colder climes, would quickly become a hot, stuffy, sweat-inducing trap. It would cradle your head, yes, but it would also insulate it, preventing heat from escaping. Think of wearing a woolly hat to bed in the middle of summer. Not exactly conducive to a refreshing night's sleep. The stone or wooden headrest, however, acts as a kind of personal heat sink. Its solid, smooth surface remains relatively cool to the touch, drawing warmth away from your head and neck, allowing for better air circulation around your scalp. This simple thermal regulation can make a significant difference to your comfort levels during those long, warm nights. It's like having a built-in low-tech air conditioning unit just for your head. No batteries required, just a decent piece of rock. Your ancestors weren't daft. They knew a thing or two about staying cool when the mercury soared. They didn't have electric fans or air conditioning units the size of a small chariot, so they improvised with elegance and natural materials. Then there's the hygiene aspect, particularly concerning your hair. Elaborate hairstyles were common in ancient Egypt, especially among the wealthier classes. But even for ordinary folk, keeping your hair clean and presentable was important. Many Egyptians, both men and women, wore their hair in intricate braids, curls, or even wigs made from human hair or plant fibers. These coiffures often involved the use of oils, fats, and perhaps beeswax to hold them in place and give them a fashionable sheen. Now, imagine laying such a carefully constructed, product-laden hairdo on a soft, absorbent pillow. It would quickly become a matted, greasy mess, the pillow itself a rather unhygienic repository of sweat, oil, and dust. Not exactly a recipe for sweet dreams or a fresh start in the morning. The stone headrest, by elevating the head, helped to preserve these hairstyles. Your carefully plaited locks, or your expensive wig, if you were so inclined and could afford one, wouldn't be flattened or disturbed. It could rest freely, away from direct contact with the sleeping surface, maintaining its shape and cleanliness for longer. This meant less time spent on hair maintenance each morning, which, when you've got oxen to plow or papyrus to harvest, is a definite bonus. It's like a built-in salon stand for your head, ensuring your do remained fabulous even while you slept. Perhaps not a primary concern for a humble farmer, but for those with more elaborate grooming rituals, it was a significant advantage. And, as we touched upon, there's the undeniable benefit of pest control. The ancient Egyptian home, while generally kept clean, was still an environment where insects and other small creatures were a fact of life. Ants, beetles, spiders, scorpions, centipedes. These were your unwelcome roommates, particularly active at night. Sleeping on a low mat on the floor put you right in their territory. A soft, warm, dark pillow would be an inviting haven for many of these critters. The last thing you want is to wake up with a scorpion sharing your dreamscape or a centipede exploring your nasal passages. It's the stuff of nightmares, literally. The smooth, solid pillar of the stone or wooden headrest created a less accessible pathway for these creatures. It elevated your head, your ears, your nose, your mouth, all the vulnerable entry points, away from the general scuttling zone. While not an impenetrable fortress, it certainly reduced the chances of an unpleasant nocturnal encounter. Think of it as a tiny personal watchtower, keeping your most sensitive sensory organs above the fray. Your ancestors weren't just thinking about comfort. They were thinking about survival even in their sleep. No one wants to explain to the local healer that they were taken down by a rogue dung beetle in the middle of the night. It's just not a dignified way to go. Beyond these overtly practical considerations, there are more subtle physical benefits that might have been understood, even if not articulated in modern physiological terms. Sleeping on your side with your head properly supported in alignment with your spine is generally considered good for posture and can prevent neck and shoulder pain. While a stone headrest might seem counterintuitive for this, the specific curve of the wares was designed to fit the nape of the neck or the side of the head in a way that could, with acclimatization, provide stable support. It prevented the head from lolling uncomfortably or being forced into an unnatural angle, which a very soft or poorly shaped pillow might do. It encouraged a consistent sleeping posture. Perhaps the initial discomfort was a small price to pay for long-term spinal alignment, though it's unlikely they were thinking in terms of chiropractic care. More likely, they found a position that, once accustomed to, simply worked for them, allowing them to wake without the aches and pains that might come from sleeping with their head at an awkward angle on a less supportive surface. It's like those ergonomic chairs that feel a bit weird at first, but your back thanks you for it later. The ancient Egyptians were just way ahead of the curve on ergonomic sleep technology, albeit with a distinctly minimalist aesthetic. A mainstream historical fact that supports the idea of concern for bodily well-being is the ancient Egyptians' sophisticated knowledge of medicine and anatomy, as evidenced by texts like the Edwin Smith Papyrus, which details surgical procedures and anatomical observations. While their understanding was different from modern medicine, they were keen observers of the human body and its ailments. It's plausible that they recognized the benefits of a sleeping posture that didn't strain the neck or impede breathing, and the headrest was a tool to achieve that. Consider also the materials themselves. Stone, particularly limestone or alabaster, has a natural coolness and a non-porous surface. Wood, while perhaps not as cool, is still a natural, breathable material. These materials are easy to clean. A quick wipe, and your headrest is fresh for the next night. Compare that to a hypothetical stuffed pillow in a hot, dusty climate. It would become a haven for dust mites, bacteria, and unpleasant odors very quickly. The cleanliness of the stone or wooden headrest contributed to a healthier sleeping environment. In a world without modern laundry detergents or dry cleaning, keeping your bedding clean and hygienic was a constant challenge. The wares was a low-maintenance, highly durable solution. It wouldn't go lumpy. It wouldn't harbor allergens, at least not in the same way a fabric pillow would, and it would last for generations. Your great-great-great-grandfather might have used the very same headrest, or one very much like it. There's a certain appeal to that kind of enduring, sustainable design. No planned obsolescence here. This pillow was built to last, possibly longer than you were. The elevation provided by the headrest also had implications for breathing. Lying completely flat, or with your head buried in a soft pillow, can sometimes restrict airflow. By keeping the head slightly raised and the neck aligned, the headrest could have helped to maintain clearer airways, potentially reducing snoring, much to the relief of anyone sharing the sleeping mat, and promoting more restful, oxygenated sleep. While they might not have understood the science of sleep apnea, they would have certainly noticed if a particular sleeping posture led to more disturbed or noisy sleep. Anything that helped you breathe easier through the night was a welcome innovation. Your sleeping partner probably appreciated the anti-snoring properties more than you ever knew. Thank Ra for that stone pillow, they might have thought. Otherwise, it's like sleeping next to a hippo with a head cold. The shape of the headrest, that distinctive crescent supported by a pillar, is also worth considering. It's a very specific design, found with remarkable consistency over thousands of years. This wasn't just a random lump of rock. The curve was carefully shaped to accommodate the human head and neck. The height of the pillar was also important, needing to be just right to provide the correct elevation for the average person when lying on their side. It's a piece of functional ergonomic design, refined over centuries of use. Different styles existed, some more elaborate than others, some with wider or narrower curves, but the basic principle remained the same. This consistency speaks to its effectiveness. If it didn't work, or if it was truly unbearable, the design would have evolved or been abandoned. The fact that it persisted for so long, across different social strata, suggests that it fulfilled its intended purpose remarkably well, at least by ancient Egyptian standards. Let's also consider the environment beyond just the heat and the bugs. Ancient Egyptian homes, especially those of ordinary people, could be quite dusty. The desert was never far away, and winds could bring fine sand and dust into dwellings. A soft pillow would trap this dust. The smooth, hard surface of a stone or wooden headrest would not. Any dust could be easily wiped away. This contributed to a cleaner sleeping environment for the head and face, potentially reducing skin irritations or respiratory issues that might be exacerbated by inhaling dust all night. It's a small detail, but in a desert environment, managing dust is a constant concern. Your stone pillow was, in its own small way, a dust buster. One quirky tidbit relates to the perceived hardness of the headrest. While we might see it as uncomfortable, it's possible that ancient Egyptians had a different perception of comfort, or a different set of priorities. In a life that often involved hard physical labor, perhaps the idea of a very soft, yielding bed and pillow was not necessarily seen as desirable or even healthy. A firm sleeping surface, a solid head support. These might have been associated with strength, resilience, and good posture. What one culture considers comfortable, another might see as overly indulgent or even detrimental. It's a reminder that our modern notions of comfort are not universal or timeless. Perhaps they would have viewed our plush, memory foam mattresses and feather pillows as rather decadent, and likely to lead to a weak spine and a fuzzy head. All that softness, a ghostly Egyptian might mutter, how do they ever get anything done? Historians still argue whether the headrest's design was influenced by observations of animals, some of whom sleep with their heads elevated on rocks or mounds of earth, or if it was a purely human innovation driven by the specific environmental and cultural conditions of Egypt. It's an interesting thought. Did an early Egyptian see a desert fox resting its head on a cool stone and think, that looks rather sensible? We may never know, but the convergence of practical benefits suggests a design that was well adapted to its context. So, as you continue to lie there, your head on its cool stone perch, you begin to build a case for its brilliance. It keeps your head cool in the sweltering night. It protects your carefully styled hair, even if your style is more functional peasant than pharaonic chic. It elevates you above the nightly parade of scorpions and centipedes. It promotes good posture and clear breathing. It's easy to clean and incredibly durable. Suddenly, this uncomfortable stone pillow is looking like a triumph of ancient Egyptian ingenuity, a masterclass in practical design for a challenging environment. It's not just a pillow, it's a multifunctional, sleep-enhancing, pest-deterring, heat-regulating, hair-preserving, posture-aligning, ancient super gadget. And all it asks in return is that you get used to a slightly firm sensation against your ear. A small price to pay, perhaps, for a night of relatively cool, bug-free, and hygienically superior slumber in the land of the pharaohs. The sweet dreams part? Well, that might be influenced by other factors, perhaps even by the headrest itself in ways we are yet to explore. But for now, the practical case for the stone wares is looking pretty solid. Pun definitely intended. The practical benefits of your stone wares, its coolness, its pest-deterring elevation, its hygienic properties, and its surprising ergonomic support have settled into your understanding, much like your head is now settling, with a growing sense of acceptance onto its unyielding curve. The Egyptian night deepens around you, a profound stillness broken only by the faint, ancient sounds of the Nile Valley. But this is ancient Egypt, and in this land, the practical and the spiritual are rarely separate. They are two sides of the same papyrus scroll, inextricably intertwined. Your headrest, you begin to sense, is more than just a clever bit of ancient engineering. It is also a guardian, a sacred sentinel, imbued with a power that transcends its mere physical form, designed to protect you not just from heat and scorpions, but from the more insidious, unseen dangers that lurk in the darkness of the night. As you drift closer to the porous border between wakefulness and sleep, your thoughts turn to the realm of dreams, the Araswat as it is called in your language. This is not just a period of mental rest and random imagery for ancient Egyptians. It is a journey. When you sleep, your Ba, one of the essential components of your soul, often depicted as a human-headed bird, capable of flight, is believed to leave your physical body and travel, sometimes to other parts of the world, sometimes to the Duat, the underworld, and sometimes even into the presence of the gods, or the blessed dead, the Aku. This nightly journey of the Ba is essential for your spiritual well-being, for receiving messages, for gaining wisdom. However, it is also a time of great vulnerability. When your Ba is away, your sleeping body is less protected, more susceptible to the influence of malevolent spirits, demons, and the ghosts of the unquiet dead who might seek to do you harm, to cause illness, or to plague you with terrifying nightmares. This is where your humble stone headrest begins to reveal its deeper, more mystical purpose. It is not just supporting your physical head. It is symbolically and magically guarding the gateway through which your Ba departs and returns. It is a liminal object, existing on the threshold between the waking world and the dream world, between the physical body and the traveling soul, and as such, it is often imbued with powerful apotropaic magic designed to ward off evil. Many headrests, especially those belonging to wealthier individuals or those placed in tombs, are inscribed with hieroglyphic spells and prayers for protection. These are not just pretty decorations. They are potent incantations, words of power designed to create a sacred, protected space around your sleeping form. You might see the Ankh symbol, the key of life, promising vitality and endurance. You might see the Ujjat eye, the eye of Horus, a powerful symbol of protection, healing, and wholeness, its gaze warding off any approaching evil. There could be depictions of protective deities, their images acting as divine guardians. The most common of these is Bes, the dwarf god. Bes, with his leonine features, sticking out tongue, and often brandishing a knife or a musical instrument to scare away spirits with noise, is a fierce protector of the household, particularly of women, children, and sleepers. His image on a headrest is like having a divine bouncer stationed right by your head, ready to deal with any troublesome entities from the netherworld. "You're not on the list," Bess might growl at a lurking demon. "Now hop it before I get my tambourine out." Another powerful protective deity often found on headrests is Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess. While a hippo might not seem like the most obvious symbol of gentle protection, Taweret, often depicted as a pregnant hippo with leonine limbs and a crocodile's back and tail, was a fierce defender of mothers and children, and, by extension, of anyone in a vulnerable state, such as sleep. Her fearsome appearance was meant to terrify evil spirits, driving them away from the sleeper. Having Taweret on your headrest was like having a very large, very protective, and slightly terrifying supernatural nanny watching over you. Even if your own limestone headrest is unadorned with such explicit carvings, perhaps you are a simple farmer, and your wares is plain. The very materials and shape are thought to hold inherent protective qualities. Stone itself, taken from the enduring earth, possesses a certain solidity, a permanence that can resist the ephemeral and often chaotic forces of the spirit world. Wood, too, from sacred trees like the sycamore fig, a tree often associated with mother goddesses like Hathor and Nut, and seen as a gateway to the afterlife, could carry its own protective energies. The crescent shape of the headrest, supporting the head, which was considered the seat of life and consciousness, might also be seen as a symbolic embrace, a protective enclosure. The act of placing your head upon the wares each night could be seen as a ritual in itself, a conscious act of entrusting your well-being to its protective powers. As you settle down, you might whisper a small prayer to your household gods, or to Vesta's Egyptian counterparts like Ra or Horus, asking for a peaceful and protected night. Your headrest is a key part of that protected space. It's not just a piece of furniture. It's an active participant in your nightly spiritual defense system. Consider the significance of the head. In ancient Egyptian thought, the head was of paramount importance. It was the locus of identity, of intelligence, of life itself. To lose one's head, either literally or metaphorically, by having it stolen by demons in the afterlife, a common fear expressed in funerary texts like the Book of the Dead, was to lose one's existence. Therefore, protecting the head, especially during the vulnerable state of sleep when the Ba was away, was absolutely crucial. The headrest, by elevating and cradling the head, was seen as physically and magically safeguarding this most vital part of the self. Chapter 151 of the Book of the Dead, for example, often includes a vignette showing the deceased lying on a funerary bed with a headrest, and the accompanying spells are designed to ensure the deceased's head is not taken from them that they remain whole and able to be reborn. While this relates to the afterlife, the anxieties and the protective measures often mirrored those of the living. What was good for protecting your head in the tomb was probably also good for protecting it in your mud brick hut. The materials used for headrests were sometimes chosen for their specific magical properties. Alabaster, Egyptian calcite, with its translucent, luminous quality, was often associated with purity and light, making it a suitable material for repelling darkness and evil. Faience, with its vibrant blue and green glazes, echoed the colors of life, regeneration, and the waters of Nun, the primeval abyss from which all creation arose. These colors were inherently protective and life-affirming. Even simple limestone or sandstone, by virtue of being part of the sacred land of Egypt, carried a certain inherent sanctity. The choice of material was not arbitrary. It was part of the magical technology of the headrest. It's like choosing a specific crystal for its healing properties today. Only in ancient Egypt, the stakes felt a lot higher, and the negative energies you were warding off might have actual claws and a taste for souls. One quirky tidbit often discussed by Egyptologists is the presence of dummy headrests in some tombs, or miniature headrests. These were not functional for a living person, but were included for the deceased, perhaps as symbolic representations, or to ensure that even if the main headrest was damaged or stolen, the deceased would still have the magical benefit of one. It underscores how essential this object was considered for a safe passage and continued existence in the afterlife. It's like packing a spare toothbrush for eternity. But instead of dental hygiene, it's about spiritual head security. The headrest also played a role in ensuring that the sleeper's BA could safely return to the body. The head, as the seat of consciousness, was the entry point for the returning soul. By keeping the head elevated, properly aligned, and magically protected, the headrest provided a clear and safe landing strip for the bay at the end of its nightly travels. You wouldn't want your ba coming back and finding your head missing, or occupied by some unwelcome spiritual squatter, or even just facing the wrong way. That would be terribly inconvenient and could lead to a very bad morning, or worse, a failure to wake up at all. The headrest helped to maintain the integrity of that crucial connection between the physical body and its spiritual components. Furthermore, the Egyptians believed that nightmares were not just random firings of a tired brain, but were often caused by malevolent entities, demons, ghosts, or angry gods, actively attacking the sleeper. These nightmares could be terrifying, but also dangerous, potentially causing illness, misfortune, or even death if they were particularly potent or if the sleeper was not adequately protected. The headrest, especially one adorned with images of Bes or Taweret, or inscribed with protective spells, was a primary line of defense against such nocturnal assaults. It created a sacred, defended space around the sleeper's head, a magical force field designed to repel these dream invaders. If a demon tried to whisper a terrifying vision into your ear, it would first have to get past your stone pillow, which might just give it a metaphorical, or, who knows, maybe even literal, bop on the nose. Not tonight, Satek's minions. This dreamer is under new headrest management. A mainstream historical fact is the discovery of numerous headrests in the tomb of Tutankhamun, including some incredibly ornate examples made of ivory, turquoise blue glass, and even one of gold, showcasing the importance of these objects even for a pharaoh. One of Tutankhamun's headrests, made of ivory, is carved with images of Bes and Taweret, and also features the god Shu, god of the air, symbolically holding up the sky, represented by the curved head support, under which the king sleeps. This imagery powerfully conveys the idea of the headrest as a microcosm of the cosmos, a divinely protected space where the sleeper is safe and supported. If the boy king needed this much magical bling on his pillow, you can bet ordinary folk were also keen on whatever protective mojo their simpler headrests could offer. The very act of sleeping with the head elevated, facing a particular direction, often east towards the rising sun and rebirth, though this varied, could also be part of a larger ritual framework for ensuring a good night's sleep and auspicious dreams. The headrest was an integral part of this nightly ritual. It wasn't just something you used, it was something you interacted with, consciously or unconsciously, as part of your preparation for and journey through the mysterious realm of sleep. Historians still argue about the precise interpretation of some of the symbols and texts found on headrests. While some are clearly apotropaic, others might relate to regeneration, resurrection, or the desire for specific types of dreams, which we'll explore more later. The language of symbolism in ancient Egypt was complex and multi-layered, and a single image or phrase could carry a range of meanings. What is clear, however, is that these objects were far more than just functional supports. They were active magical tools, vital for navigating the spiritual perils of the night. So, as you lie there on your mat, your head resting on its cool, solid limestone wares, you can take comfort, not just in its physical properties, but in its unseen protective aura. It stands as a silent sentinel between you and the darkness, a guardian of your vulnerable sleeping self. The cool stone beneath your ear is not just stone. It is a shield, a boundary marker, a conduit for protective energies. The nightmares that might have otherwise plagued your rest are, hopefully, being deflected, scared off by the fierce glare of a carved bess or the inherent sanctity of the object itself. Your ba, as it prepares for its nightly flight, knows it has a safe and welcoming place to return to. The stone pillow, in this light, transforms from an object of potential discomfort into a profound source of security, a testament to the ancient Egyptian understanding that the night is not just for rest, but for spiritual vigilance, and that even the simplest of household objects can be imbued with sacred power. Your dreams, under its watchful presence, are hopefully a little sweeter, a little safer, and a lot less likely to feature soul-stealing demons with bad intentions. The protective aura of your stone whirs has settled around you, a comforting shield against the unseen terrors of the Egyptian night. You've acknowledged its practical benefits, the coolness, the pest control, the hygienic advantages, and you've now embraced its role as a magical guardian, a sentinel warding off malevolent spirits and terrifying nightmares. But the function of your headrest, this seemingly simple piece of stone or wood, extends even further into the mystical realms of ancient Egyptian belief. It's not just about keeping bad things out, it's also about letting good things in. Specifically, your headrest is considered a vital conduit, a sacred gateway to the world of dreams, and through those dreams, to communication with the gods, the ancestors, and the deeper truths of the cosmos. As your consciousness begins to unmoor itself from the waking world, drifting on the gentle currents of approaching sleep, you understand that the journey ahead is not into a void of nothingness. For an ancient Egyptian, sleep, and particularly the dreams experienced within it, RSSWT, is a highly significant state. It is a time when the veil between the worlds thins, when your ba, your bird-souled self, can travel and interact with other spiritual entities. Dreams are not mere figments of an overactive imagination or the residue of the day's anxieties. They are often seen as direct messages, omens, or visitations from the divine realm, or from your beloved Aku, your effective, transfigured ancestors who dwell in the field of reeds. And your headrest plays a crucial role in facilitating and interpreting these nocturnal transmissions. The head itself, as we've established, is the seat of consciousness, perception, and identity. By elevating and supporting the head, the wearers is symbolically lifting you closer to the heavens, closer to the realm of the gods and spirits. It acts like an antenna, tuning your sleeping mind to receive divine frequencies. The materials from which it is made can enhance this. Stone, being of the earth yet reaching towards the sky, bridges these two realms. Certain types of wood, like sycamore fig, the Nehet tree, were explicitly associated with goddesses like Hathor and Nut, who were themselves connected to the sky, to nourishment, and to rebirth. Sleeping on a headrest made of sycamore fig wood could be seen as placing yourself under the direct protection and guidance of these benevolent mother goddesses, hoping they might bless your sleep with peaceful visions or helpful messages. It's like having a direct line to your celestial godmothers, hoping they'll whisper some useful life hacks or lottery numbers in your dreams. Many headrests, particularly those intended for use in tombs but also sometimes for the living, are inscribed not just with protective spells, but with prayers for good and true dreams. These inscriptions might call upon specific deities known to communicate through dreams, such as Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, writing, and magic, who was often seen as a divine messenger and an interpreter of dreams. Or they might invoke Imhotep, the deified architect and sage, who became a god of medicine and healing, and whose temples were often places of dream incubation, where people would sleep in the sacred precincts, hoping for a divinely inspired cure or guidance to be revealed in their dreams. Your headrest could be a personal, portable dream incubation device, charged with prayers to encourage meaningful and beneficial nocturnal visitations. You're not just hoping for sweet dreams. You're actively trying to curate them, to invite specific divine guest stars into your nightly mental theater. The shape of the headrest, the crescent supporting the head, could also be interpreted in this context. It might symbolize the horizon, the Akhet, the place where the sun rises and sets, a liminal zone between night and day, between this world and the next. By resting your head upon this symbolic horizon, you are positioning yourself at the very gateway of divine manifestation, ready to receive the illuminations that might come with the dawn, either literally or metaphorically in your dreams. The headrest becomes a launching pad for your Ba's journey and a reception point for incoming divine intelligence. It's like your own personal stargate, conveniently sized for your bedside mat. The ancient Egyptians were keen interpreters of dreams. Dream interpretation was a specialized skill, often practiced by wise men or women or by priests associated with particular deities. Texts like the so-called Dream Book, Papyrus Chester Beatty III is a famous example, list various dream scenarios and their supposed meanings. For instance, dreaming of seeing a large cat might mean a large harvest is coming. Dreaming of drinking warm beer could be a bad omen, signifying suffering. Seeing your face in a mirror might mean you will take another wife, which could be good or bad, depending on your current marital situation and your opinion on beer. These interpretations were often based on wordplay, puns in the ancient Egyptian language, or on symbolic associations. A good, clear, and auspicious dream was a cause for relief and gratitude. A disturbing or confusing dream would be a cause for concern, perhaps requiring purification rituals or offerings to appease the gods or ward off impending misfortune. The headrest, by promoting true dreams, that is, dreams that were clear, divinely sent, and not just a jumble of random thoughts or demonic interference, played a vital role in this system of divination and spiritual guidance. It helped to ensure the signal from the gods wasn't being jammed by spiritual static or your own undigested lentils. Imagine waking in the quiet, pre-dawn light, the images of your dream still vivid in your mind. You might lie there for a moment, your head still resting on the cool stone of your wares, replaying the dream, trying to decipher its meaning. Did you see a beloved ancestor offering words of comfort or advice? Did a god appear to you, perhaps in animal form, giving an instruction or a warning? The headrest, having cradled you through this experience, seems almost to share in the mystery, to hold a faint echo of the dream's power. You might even offer a small prayer of thanks to your headrest, or to the deities associated with it, for granting you this vision. It's not just an inanimate object. It's a partner in your spiritual life, a silent confidant of your nocturnal journeys. A mainstream historical fact is that dream incubation, the practice of deliberately seeking dreams for guidance or healing by sleeping in a sacred place, was a well-established practice in ancient Egypt and other ancient cultures. Temples dedicated to healing gods like Imhotep or Serapis, in later periods, often had special areas where supplicants could sleep, hoping for a therapeutic dream. While an ordinary person might not have regular access to such temple-based incubation, their personal headrest, especially if ritually prepared or inscribed, could serve a similar function on a smaller, more domestic scale. It turned your own sleeping mat into a mini shrine for dream reception. The connection between the headrest and the ability to see or perceive clearly is also suggested by some of the terminology. The word wares itself is thought by some scholars to be related to words meaning to watch or to be wakeful, which seems counterintuitive for an object used for sleep. However, if sleep is understood as a state of heightened spiritual perception, a time when one is wakeful to the divine, then the name makes more sense. The headrest helps you to watch in your dreams, to perceive the messages that are being sent. It's about being spiritually alert, even when your body is at rest. It's like having night vision goggles for your soul. Furthermore, the act of elevating the head was symbolically important for maintaining life and consciousness. In funerary contexts, the headrest was essential for ensuring the deceased could lift their head, breathe, speak, and see in the afterlife, all necessary functions for a successful resurrection and eternal life among the gods. Spells in the Book of the Dead, like spell 166, are specifically for the headrest, ensuring it will lift up the head of the prostrate one. While this applies to the deceased, the symbolism often carries over to the living. A good headrest helps you to lift your head in a metaphorical sense too, to face the day with clarity and a sense of divine connection gained from your dreams. It's about spiritual upliftment, quite literally. Consider the artisans who crafted these headrests. A skilled craftsman, a hemo, would not just be shaping stone or wood. He might also be imbuing the object with a certain heka, or magical power, through his skill, his intention, and perhaps through specific rituals performed during its creation. The choice of materials, the precision of the carving, the beauty of the form, all could contribute to its efficacy as a spiritual tool. A beautifully made headrest, pleasing to the eye, might also be considered more pleasing to the gods, and therefore more likely to attract their favorable attention to the sleeper. It's like bespoke magical equipment, tailored to enhance your dream reception. You wouldn't want a shoddily made antenna if you were trying to pick up heavenly broadcasts. One quirky tidbit related to headrests and dreams comes from the story of Thutmose IV. According to an inscription on the dream stele he erected between the paws of the great Sphinx at Giza, the prince, while hunting, fell asleep in the shadow of the Sphinx, using its forepaw as a headrest, according to some interpretations, though this is likely symbolic. The Sphinx, a form of the sun god Harmachis Khepri Ra-Atum, appeared to him in a dream, complaining that he was being choked by the desert sand that had encroached upon his body. The Sphinx promised Thutmose the throne of Egypt if he would clear away the sand. Thutmose did so, and duly became pharaoh. This story beautifully illustrates the Egyptian belief in divinely sent dreams that could alter one's destiny and the role of a sacred headrest, in this case the Sphinx itself, a monumental divine guardian, in facilitating such a powerful encounter. While your limestone pillow might not offer you the throne of Egypt, it could still be a conduit for less grandiose but personally significant divine guidance. Maybe it just tells you where you left your other sandal. Still useful. Historians still argue about the extent to which ordinary Egyptians actively sought to interpret their dreams versus simply experiencing them as good or bad omens. While dream interpretation texts existed, they were likely the preserve of literate specialists. For the average farmer or craftsman, the dream experience might have been more immediate, more visceral. A feeling of peace and reassurance from a good dream, or a sense of foreboding and a desire for purification after a bad one. The headrest's role would be to filter these experiences, to promote the positive and deflect the negative, ensuring that the nightly journey of the BA was, on the whole, a beneficial one. It was your spiritual dream catcher, ancient Egyptian style. So as you lie there, your head cradled by the cool, solid curve of your wares, you are not just passively waiting for sleep to claim you. You are an active participant in a nightly ritual of spiritual connection. Your headrest is your ally, your tool, your sacred gateway. It is helping to elevate your consciousness, to protect your journeying soul, and to open your mind to the wisdom and guidance that might flow from the realm of the gods and ancestors. The dreams that come to you tonight, under its watchful influence, are not just random mental static. They are potential messages woven into the fabric of your existence, helping you to navigate your life in accordance with Ma'at, the divine order. The stone pillow, far from being a mere comfort or discomfort, is a key to unlocking the sacred mysteries of the Egyptian night. It's your personal hotline to the other side, ensuring your sweet dreams are also wise ones. The cool stone of your wares has cradled your head through the watches of the night. You've experienced its practical comforts, its magical protections, and its role as a conduit for sacred dreams and divine messages. Now, as your life in ancient Egypt, like all mortal lives, eventually draws to its close, we explore the final and perhaps most enduring significance of this seemingly simple object. its indispensable role in the journey to the afterlife and the attainment of eternal peace. For in ancient Egypt, death was not an ending, but a transition, a perilous voyage to a new state of being, and every provision, every amulet, every piece of funerary equipment was chosen with meticulous care to ensure that journey was successful. Your humble headrest, it turns out, is one of the most vital pieces of luggage for this ultimate trip. Imagine the scene, not in your mud brick village home, but in the cool, dim silence of a freshly prepared tomb, carved perhaps into the rocky cliffs of the Theban necropolis, or a simpler pit grave in the desert sands, if your means are more modest. Your mummified body, carefully wrapped in layers of pristine linen bandages, adorned with amulets and a funerary mask, lies upon a wooden bier or within a painted coffin. The air is thick with the scent of incense, frankincense and myrrh, and the faint, dry aroma of natron, the salt used in the mummification process. The walls of the tomb, if you are wealthy enough, might be covered in vibrant paintings and hieroglyphs depicting scenes from your life, offerings to the gods, and spells from the Book of the Dead designed to guide and protect you on your journey through the Duat, the treacherous underworld. And there, placed carefully beneath your mummified head, or sometimes beside it, is your wares, your headrest. It might be the very same one you used throughout your life, smoothed by years of contact with your skin, imbued with your personal history and magical charge. Or it might be a new one, specially crafted for your burial, perhaps made of more precious materials like alabaster or faience, and more elaborately decorated with protective spells and divine imagery than your everyday model. Regardless of its material or embellishment, its presence is non-negotiable. It is as essential as the food offerings, the Shabti figures, magical servant statues, and the sacred texts. Without your headrest, your eternal sleep, your resurrection, and your ability to navigate the afterlife would be severely compromised. Why this profound importance in a funerary context? Firstly, as we've touched upon, the head was considered the seat of life, identity, and consciousness. For you to be reborn into the afterlife, your head needed to be protected, preserved, and symbolically lifted up. The headrest, by physically elevating your mummified head, ensured that it was not lying inert and passive, but was positioned as if ready to rise, to breathe, to speak the words of power that would allow you to pass the judgments of the underworld. Chapter 166 of the Book of the Dead, a spell specifically for the headrest, makes this explicit. One version of the spell reads, "Awake from your prostration, O you who lie there." They lift up your head to the horizon, you are raised up, and triumph because of what has been done for you. Your head shall not be taken from you. Your head shall not be removed from you afterwards. Your head shall not be taken from you forever and ever. This spell, often inscribed on funerary headrests or on the tomb walls nearby, magically activated the headrest, turning it into a powerful amulet that guaranteed the integrity of your head, and, by extension, your continued existence and ability to achieve resurrection. It's like a divine insurance policy against decapitation by underworld demons, a very specific but apparently very necessary form of coverage. The headrest also played a crucial role in the process of solar resurrection, a central tenet of Egyptian afterlife beliefs. Each night, the sun god Ra journeyed through the Duat in his celestial bark, overcoming various demonic forces, to be reborn at dawn in the eastern horizon. The deceased Egyptian hoped to join Ra on this nightly journey, to be revitalized by his light and to be reborn with him each morning. The headrest, often shaped like the Akhet hieroglyph, the sun rising or setting between two mountains, symbolizing the horizon, symbolically placed your head at this point of cosmic rebirth. By resting on the wares, you were aligning yourself with the solar cycle, positioning yourself for your own daily resurrection in the afterlife. It was your personal launchpad into the eternal dawn. Some headrests even feature imagery of the god Shu, deity of the air and sunlight, physically lifting the sky, represented by the curved part of the headrest above the earth, with the deceased sleeper's head nestled in this divinely supported space, ready to greet the light. Tutankhamun had such a headrest, made of beautiful turquoise blue glass, a powerful visual metaphor for this solar connection. Your stone pillow isn't just holding your head up, it's holding up your entire hope of eternal, sun-blessed existence. No pressure, little limestone curve. Furthermore, the coolness and inertness of the stone headrest could be seen as a symbol of the state of death itself, but in a positive, transformative way. Like the mummified body, preserved and unchanging, the stone headrest represented a state of protected stasis, from which rebirth was possible. It was not the death of annihilation, but a temporary, Osiris-like state of suspended animation before resurrection. Osiris, the god of the underworld and rebirth, was famously dismembered by his brother Set, and then reassembled and resurrected by his wife Isis. His story was the model for every Egyptian's hope of eternal life. The headrest helped to ensure your own reassembly and reanimation in the afterlife by keeping your head safe and properly positioned. The materials used for funerary headrests often carried even greater symbolic weight than those for daily use. Alabaster, with its milky translucence, was associated with purity, light, and the dawn, all essential for rebirth. Faience, in its brilliant blues and greens, evoked the life-giving waters of the Nile, the regenerative power of vegetation, and the eternal heavens. Gold, used for the headrests of pharaohs like Tutankhamun, was the flesh of the gods, a symbol of indestructibility and divinity. Even simple limestone or wood, when placed in the tomb, became charged with sacred potential, transformed by the rituals of burial and the accompanying incantations. The object itself became a keperu, a mode of transformation. It wasn't just a pillow, it was an alchemical tool for achieving eternity. A mainstream historical fact is the sheer number and variety of headrests found in Egyptian tombs across all periods and social strata. From the simplest wooden blocks found in pre-dynastic graves to the elaborately carved and inscribed masterpieces of the New Kingdom pharaohs. The presence of a headrest is a remarkably consistent feature of Egyptian burial customs for over 3 millennia. This ubiquity underscores its fundamental importance in their conception of a successful afterlife. It wasn't an optional accessory. It was essential equipment for the journey. Consider the journey through the Duat. It was fraught with perils. Monstrous serpents like Apep, who sought to swallow the sun god, terrifying demons, lakes of fire, and challenging judgments. The deceased needed every magical aid they could get. The headrest, inscribed with protective spells and divine figures, acted as a constant source of apotropaic power, a personal bodyguard accompanying you through these trials. Figures like Bes and Taweret so helpful for warding off nightmares in life, were doubly important for fending off the more substantial horrors of the underworld. The Ujjat eye on your headrest would pierce through the darkness of the duat, guiding your way and repelling evil. The Ankh would ensure your life force remained strong. Your headrest was your spiritual multi-tool for surviving the dangers of the afterlife. It's like having a Swiss Army knife, but instead of a corkscrew and a tiny pair of scissors, it has demon repellent and soul revivification features. The headrest also ensured that you would be comfortable in your eternal sleep. While comfort in the afterlife might seem a strange concept, the Egyptians envisioned the field of reeds, the blessed realm where the justified dead dwelt, as an idealized version of Egypt, a fertile land where you could enjoy all the pleasures of life without the hardships. You would still need to rest, to sleep, and your trusty headrest would be there to provide that familiar, cool support. It was a piece of home, a comforting link to your earthly existence, accompanying you into eternity. It's like taking your favorite comfy old armchair with you to your heavenly retirement village. One quirky tidbit relates to letters to the dead. Sometimes, living relatives would write letters on papyrus or pottery ostraca to their deceased ancestors, asking for help or intercession with the gods. These letters might be deposited in the tomb. It's a charming thought that the deceased, resting their head on their wares in the afterlife, might read these messages from their loved ones, maintaining a connection across the veil of death. Your headrest, in this scenario, becomes a kind of celestial post office box, ensuring you still get your mail even when you're technically no longer in the land of the living. Historians still argue about the precise moment when the headrest transitioned from being a purely functional item for the living to a ritually essential item for the dead. Was it always imbued with this funerary significance from its earliest inception? Or did that layer of meaning develop over time as Egyptian afterlife beliefs became more complex and codified? Given the early appearance of headrests in tombs, it seems likely that their connection to sleep, dreams, and the head's integrity made them natural candidates for funerary inclusion from a very early stage. The line between sleep and death, between the nightly journey of the Be'e and the final journey to the afterlife, was often blurred in Egyptian thought. What protected you in one state could protect you in the other. The inscriptions on funerary headrests often included the name and titles of the deceased, further linking the object to their individual identity and ensuring that the spells and protections were directed specifically to them. It was a personalized piece of magical equipment. Sometimes, the inscriptions would also include appeals to specific gods associated with resurrection and the afterlife, such as Osiris, Anubis, the jackal-headed god of mummification and the afterlife, or Hathor, in her role as a goddess of the West, who received the setting sun and the deceased into her embrace. These appeals would further charge the headrest with divine power, making it an even more effective tool for navigating the transition to eternal life. So, as your mummified form lies in the stillness of your tomb, your head resting for eternity upon your stone or wooden wares, you are not simply inanimate. You are in a state of protected potential, awaiting rebirth. Your headrest is your steadfast companion, your magical guardian, your symbolic link to the solar cycle, and your guarantee of head integrity. It ensures that your Bia can safely return to your mummified form, that you can awaken in the field of reeds, that you can speak the words of power, and that you can enjoy an eternity of cool, protected, and perhaps even divinely inspired slumber. It is the final, enduring expression of a lifetime of reliance on this remarkable, multifunctional object. The stone pillow, which began as a practical solution to the heat and pests of an Egyptian night, has become your pillow for eternity, a symbol of your hope for endless life and peaceful repose in the company of the gods. From the simple mud brick house to the painted tomb, the wares has been your constant, cool, and curiously comforting companion. And so, dear listener, as our journey through the millennia with the ancient Egyptian headrest comes to its gentle conclusion, allow the image of that cool, enduring stone to bring a sense of calm and stability to your mind. We have traveled from the practicalities of a warm night in a village by the Nile, discovering how this simple object kept heads cool, hair neat, and unwelcome creepy crawlies at bay. We then delved into its deeper mystical role as a powerful amulet, a guardian against the unseen terrors of the night, with figures like Bes and Taweret standing sentinel. We explored how the wares was seen as a gateway to the dream time, a sacred conduit for messages from the gods and revered ancestors, helping to guide and shape the lives of those who rested upon it. And finally, we saw its ultimate significance as an indispensable companion for the journey into the afterlife, a magical tool ensuring protection, resurrection, and peaceful, eternal sleep in the field of reeds. The stone pillow, so seemingly stark, was in fact a complex, multi-layered symbol of Egyptian ingenuity, spirituality, and their profound understanding of the interconnectedness of life, death, and the cosmos. As these ancient images and ideas begin to soften, like hieroglyphs fading in the desert sun, let them carry you towards a state of deep and peaceful rest. The reasons, both practical and profound, for the stone headrest can now recede, leaving behind only a sense of enduring peace and the quiet wisdom of an ancient civilization. There are no more spirits to ward off, no more divine dreams to decode. There is only the gentle invitation of sleep, a comfortable darkness, and the promise of your own sweet dreams. Allow your breath to be as steady and calm as the ageless stones of the pyramids. Feel the support beneath you, a comforting presence in the quiet of your room. The ancient Egyptians found a unique path to restful slumber, one that spoke to their environment and their deepest beliefs. May you, in your own way, find that same sense of peace and security as you drift off tonight, cradled in comfort, ready for a night of truly restorative and perhaps